Well, I am so excited to be having a chat this month for our interview with an evolver with Krista Bleich, all the way from the States. How are you today, Krista?
I am doing just great. Yes. Glad
So
to
good.
be here. Yeah.
Yes, so great to have this conversation. And for those who don't know, where exactly are you in the world?
I am in the state of Wisconsin, a small little city called Portage, in the Midwest. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, how did you come into our world?
Well, it's kind of synchronicity. I have been involved with another company that was in Australia who had a podcast who featured another woman in Australia who I followed her podcast, and you and Paul were being interviewed by her. The lovely Kim Morrison. And I heard that interview just because I followed that podcast. And there must be something about Australia because, like, a lot of the things that I have been following and doing in the last 3 years have been either Australia or New Zealand.
Mm.
Not Nothing against the US, but there's just something going on that's pulling me over there. So anyway, I heard you guys in that interview, and I'm like, I something's like really resonating with me, and there was an offer to book a call with you, and I thought, I think I'm going to book a call. And I didn't really know why I was even booking the call. There was something that was pulling me, and I trust my intuitive guidance, and I booked the call. And so I
Here
could
we
go
are.
on with more of the story, but
I still remember that initial conversation, and it was actually not that long ago. Was it six, seven
it
months
wasn't.
ago?
It wasn't even that long ago. It was end of October of 23. So November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, just like 6 months ago.
Yeah. And
And the
so,
funny thing is, I'm sorry, you called me and I saw my cell phone said somebody from Australia. And I'm like, she's actually calling me. Like, I'm getting a phone call from this woman in Australia.
yeah, gone are the days of worrying about international phone costs. I think
Yeah.
it's all pretty even these days. I remember
Yeah.
that conversation and really tuning in, and that's what we do. Obviously, we have initial coaching conversations, and for some people, it's just to help them uncover some blind spots. And for you, there was just this incredible drive that I think we connected to, where you just said, I want to help more people, and I am already doing this. I've got my website sorted. And then just from a couple of conversations, I think, for those listening, we discovered a couple of parts conflicts and a couple of things that were just creating that discord, or that lack of alignment in what you were doing and what you wanted to be doing. So tell, maybe for those who are watching this who haven't done a course with you or been in that community with you, tell us about, like, what was the journey for you? You dove into the NLP in the middle of the night, then you went into the hypno, then masters. How's the last 6 months been? What's that journey been like for you? Because you just kind of went all in.
Yeah, so it was interesting. After I had that initial phone call with you, I think I messaged you back the next day and I said, I'm going to do it. And you said, are you going to do the March component or the one in next week? And I said, oh, next week. Like, what do you think? I'm going to wait till March? Like, yeah, I'm going. And time-wise for me, it was 5 o'clock at night until 1 in the morning. So I already knew that going in, but there was something that was pulling me so much that I just knew that I would be able to make it work for myself. And I really wanted to be a part of whatever this was, because I didn't really quite understand it at that point. But I trusted that my intuition and just the conversation that I had had with you. And then it was like that next week, or maybe it wasn't very long, 2 weeks at the most. You didn't even have time to ship me my manual, but you were able to find a company in the US that could print it for me. And I just went and picked it up. And yeah, so that first initial NLP was just so mind opening and inspirational, and it helped me think in a completely different way than I have in the past. And it gave me a physical felt experience of what I was learning that I could use with clients, but I also had the felt experience of it. And I've never been in any kind of course in many years that I've done courses, that I've had that profound shift within myself. So,
I love that as well. You had it in your own home.
yeah, yes.
So many people, I think they think, oh, you've got to go somewhere. And we hear this, people say like, oh, I've got to be in person to get but what we find is people actually shift the things where the things are bothering them or triggering them and in their home environment. If you're transforming in your own home, it's such a deep transformation. And also hats off to you for, I know towards the end of the nights you were kind of like dozing, but then we just said it was going deeper into your unconscious mind. And so perhaps that was perfect. So then you dove into the hypnotherapy, I think the following month.
It was just like 2 weeks after, or 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It was not very long after NLP finished. And again, it was one of those things that just felt like it was what I was supposed to do. And I had already made it through, 7 days of staying up until 1 in the morning or 1:30. I can do that again. It was not necessarily the easiest thing, but I made it work. Hypno was great as well. I learned a lot in that. And then right after that, I dove into masters. So, yeah.
Done all the things. And I think you have also really set your intention to do a lot of practice, a lot of swap coaching sessions. I think you might be the record holder potentially. How many
I think there's like somebody else right above me. Like we're pretty, but she and I were two of the people that were swapping a lot. So,
So you've got all these Australian clients that you've been working with for such a long time as well. And I think that's a big plus in the community is people working on themselves and helping one another as well whenever things come up. But you just recently celebrated, I know in our monthly newsletter, we celebrated that you had your first paying client. So congratulations. What have you noticed with people in person, especially being really curious about this new Krista? Because I can see how much you've shifted in terms of just your self-confidence, your presence, your clarity, your certainty. What have people in your life noticed about you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know if anybody is necessarily saying it. In the area where I live, so many people still associate me with my past business that I used to own, even though that was a long time ago. It's interesting, but as soon as I will tell somebody what I'm doing now, and by the way, I do have 2 clients now, so I did get my second client. Yes.
Congrats.
Yes.
That's where the snowball starts because everyone knows like 5 or 10 people with the same problems as them. So.
Yeah, I can't remember what the question was now.
Just about what people have noticed. Yeah.
Nobody's really said anything to me, but I noticed that I am much more confident in just showing up and saying who I am, what I do. I've changed, I've grown, I've evolved, and that's a lot of what I help, particularly women in midlife do. Is change and grow and evolve. And if they've seen me do that, even though they may not say that to me, that may be inspirational to them. That I wonder what she's got going on there or something.
Well, and I think there's something, and the reason I wanted to interview you is you have really inspired me and other people in our community for your real just all in attitude of being seen, taking action, wanting to shine your light. Like we put a call out to people in our community to submit a blog article. You were the first one to submit a blog. You're up on our website. Like, what is that drive? What is your why? Why do you think you've got this hunger for creating this ripple effect?
I would probably say that it has something to do with where I'm at in my life. I want more in a way that not in a way like I want more, but I want to be able to give more of my wisdom and experience. And I know that there is only so many, not that age is anything particular, but I've got less years to go than I've already experienced. And I don't want to waste any more time. In my 30s and 40s, I felt like I had a lot of time to just kind of do things half-assed, even though I always did as best I could back then. But I have a lot of wisdom and a lot of experience, and I want to put all of that behind me and then use what I've learned, but also push my own bar and change and grow and evolve even more yet than I have in the first 50 plus years of my life. Like if I could do that twofold over the next 20 years, like who knows where I could be. Like just because I am older doesn't mean it's not possible for me to have a big influence and impact on many people. So
I just got shivers. I'm all here for it. I'll be cheering you on and eating the popcorn and seeing you have your report. And I think that's the thing, like we're really big on, is just there are people watching. There are people seeing things. They might not be taking action. They might not be interacting, but those seeds that you're sowing, those things that you're putting out there, they're out there. And then eventually those seeds start to sprout. And then it's like you've got this whole field that you like, okay, now my next problem is how do I harvest all of these opportunities and make the most of it and help people in a bigger way? And so I think it's fantastic because, to be honest, I have taken inquiry calls, I have done coaching calls with women in their 50s or 60s, even some early 70s, and there might be some old sort of stories of, oh, you know, it's a bit late for me, or oh, I'll wait until this, or there's actually sometimes people, I think, lean more into the comfort zone or the fears, but for you, you've just been like, I want to evolve. I want to be the best version of me I possibly can.
yeah.
I want to have the best of my life, be the best of my life. And I think that I said in one of our trainings, I was like, I want to be like Krista when I grow up. Like just you know, that real drive for just wanting to be able to, you know, have shine your light as bright as you can is just so magnetic and inspiring. And I think sometimes you might not even realize it because you're you. And I just really am so glad that we're showcasing you and just the amazing work that you're doing. And so tell everyone, so who do you sort of specialize with, or how is that evolving? If there was someone listening to this that they're thinking, wow, she seems amazing, I'd love to work with her, who do you love working with?
Well, typically it's women in midlife, and midlife can mean really you're at the point where kids have left the house or they're leaving, you know, they're 15, 16, they're driving on their own. They're not, you know, requiring you as much to take care of them. So that can be in your 40s, your 50s, potentially your 60s, depending on when you had kids. And there was a lot of times in your life where everything was revolved around raising kids and taking care of others. You may or may not have been working outside the home, but now all of a sudden there's like all this extra time and you're kind of like, what, you know, what do I want and what's important to me, and not really knowing what it is. And I really help you or a woman to be able to figure that out. And it's a process of a lot of different ways to help. And then once you kind of figure out, you know, a little bit more of who you are and what you want, well, what is getting in the way? Are you still holding on to old patterns of beliefs? Are you still overwhelmed, frustrated? Is there a lot of root issues that aren't being addressed? Because I have found that there's things that have gotten in my way and I haven't been able to grow because there's some old unconscious beliefs that I was holding on to. And that once I learned how to let go of those, I can help others be able to learn how to change that so that they can really kind of skyrocket themselves.
That's such an important area to be supporting, because that would be just a monumental identity shift, not to mention, you know, being empty nester, but also the woman, you know, that you're working with, she would be just such a different person to the woman that she was when she first had children as well. And so it's like this 15, 20-year chasm of just putting everyone else's needs. And then you get to the end and you're like, well, who even am I? Like, that's big. And what do you see happen to people that then don't do the inner work? Where do they, what challenges do you see people experiencing if they're perhaps not exploring this stuff and really figuring that out?
Well, I would say they stay status quo and things are okay. And they're just satisfied and accept that that's all that there is. And there's so much more.
Well, and I think if I can add, what I witness in society is, and I'm going to say this with love,
Yeah.
there can still be that tendency to like overly mother or meddle, or then
Oh,
like get into like they're still in that framework of like, oh, I've still got to be the mother, but like the children are adults now, and so they can be
yeah.
like babying children or keeping children not dependent, but like co-creating a situation where the children need them. I think we've spoken to people and they're like, oh, I'm still financially supporting my child, and they're 33 or something, and it's they
Yes.
maybe don't break that connection. So yeah, it's super fascinating, and I'm sure for each person it's an individual journey, but regardless of whether they're going through an identity shift or not, at any point in life, it's always a good thing to have someone on your side, cheering you on, helping you clear your blind spots, and really consciously create your future. And I just think you're such a graceful coach as well. Like, you really give space for the person to be heard, but also you see a lot, and you help people nudge through any unuseful stories or patterns as well, in a really artful way. So I think anyone who gets the opportunity to work with you is incredibly lucky. And so if you are watching this interview and you have been looking for an amazing coach, maybe an international coach, depending on where you're based, watching this interview, I'll put all of Krista's details below so that you can reach out to her as well. And I would love to know, Krista, what advice, because now that you've gone through those levels of trainings, what advice would you give to someone as well who maybe is at the start of the journey, or they've just signed up to do the NLP course? What advice would you give to coaches starting out?
Well, just to go all in into the work, studying, there is a lot of work, especially in NLP. Well, even in masters as well. Hypno wasn't as much work, like workbook, but there's so much value in just taking the time to do the work. Um, Talking to other people in the community, in your individual class, and you're really connecting with those people outside of class after class is over. There's a handful from NLP that I still talk to. And then there's people from Hypno I talk to, and then there's people from Masters I talk to. So I have a really nice community of people that I can reach out to and talk to about challenges I'm having with, a client, or like with my business. Like, I have a tribe of people, so to continue to reach out and support each other, that's huge.
Yeah.
And yeah, that you and Paul create that environment that's inviting, but it's still up to myself or anybody individually to reach out and follow through with those connections and keep them alive.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I would say the students who after a course kind of just like retreat back into their shell, their evolution and their continued, we talk about keeping up the mental hygiene just like we keep up dental hygiene. Like, the people who do
Yes.
have those key people that they can keep swapping with and keep working with tend to keep that up, and stay more refined, and keep the skills sharp as well. And I think doing those swap sessions and continuing to do the work, and so many of the tools that you learn, especially in Hypno and Masters, you can kind of guide and do for yourself as well. But there's something so powerful in being guided and doing those swap coaching sessions. So I think that's awesome that you do so much of that. And yeah, anything else? I know that you are looking at writing your book, and I love that because you have so much wisdom. Tell me a little bit about the book that you've got marinating. I'm curious to hear about that.
Well, it is kind of my life story, because there's a lot of who I have been over the years and how that has slowly changed. And then I, grew, and then, I had another little life, from raising kids, having a business, a lot of the unuseful beliefs I had about myself in my 20s. There's a lot to that story, and it's a story. Everybody has their own story, but I think that there is some value in putting it out there to others to be able to see how it is possible to change.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I get a little bit hung up in getting connected back to an old story, because it's just my old story and I don't want to be stuck in that. But there's also something useful for others that may, like your book, it was your old story, but it's important for others to, I've been inspired for years by other people's stories.
Yeah.
And what if I am the one that needs to have something that I write that inspires somebody else? Because if others wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have had that for myself. So
yeah,
anyway, yeah.
Hands down, it is the best extended business card you can possibly have. It's like an instant credibility builder. It's an instant way for people to know, like, and trust you. They read your story and they're just like, I want to work with you. So yeah, I think getting that beautiful baby out down the track into the world will be so cool. And yeah, I'd love to help you to get your story out in a way that impacts people and isn't, just dredging up more of the past in an unuseful way. Yeah. I always say, I think I talk about this in the book I'm writing now, is like, there's the book that we write for our own cathartic self-healing. And it's like the cathartic purge of all of the, like, my first book draft was just like so at effect. It was just blaming, my ex, my boss, all this stuff. I sent it to my editor. And then straight away, like an hour later, I sent her an email and I said, oh, please delete that draft. That was the book I had to write for my own healing. And she's like, no problems. I look forward to receiving your revised draft. She must have read it and just been like, what is this? And then I worked for like months, reworked it. And the whole time I was writing, I was thinking, what do I want my reader to think, feel, and do? And if I couldn't answer that question, I got rid of whatever was there. So because I think so many people go out to write a book, and you wouldn't do this, but they write a book and they think it's amazing, but it's just all their shit and their unresolved stuff. And no one wants to read that, because as you know, we're always being hypnotized by suggestions and forming internal representations. And I've read books and afterwards I feel just terrible. And you want to have that, that light at the end of the tunnel as you're going through it as well. So yeah, I think your book will be incredible. And I love that you've got so many aspects and chapters that you can speak through the wisdom. And yeah, that'll be really exciting. So very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's awesome to have everyone get to know you better. Any final, like, last pieces of advice for anyone watching this interview? Anything else you want to leave with? Any words of wisdom?
Well, I've definitely, who I was and what my business was 6 months ago has changed in a good way and a positive way. And I wasn't expecting that, but I also believe that there is a greater potential or possibility for us all that's out there.
Yeah.
And my vision for myself has been follow that possibility and trust what wants to show me that it wants me to see. And I know that seems kind of esoterical, but like, so there is a bigger possibility than I can even see, even though I have this big vision. And I have to trust the downloads or the guidance that I get that says, go this way and go this way. And then I'm still on the path, but I'm following the direction of where it's pulling me. And it's opening me up in such a more profound way that I wasn't even expecting, but I know it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I'm going to continue to follow that. So wherever I thought I was going to be, I've let go of it and allowed to just have what wants to come through me, if that makes sense. So being open to letting go of what you think might be where you're supposed to be headed. Yeah, it's just a very interesting journey, and have the courage to just trust that and jump into anything with Evolve and Relaunch, because it's really transformed me, and I can't wait to see where else I go. And I've only been involved with this community for 6 months. So next year I'll be in Australia, and it'll be a whole new situation.
And you'll have the map, and you'll have all of the people, you think, gosh, I'm going to need 6 months to do this. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I feel like that closing remark could definitely be a part of one of your chapters in your book.
Great.
Thank you so much, Krista. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Yep. Thanks a lot. Okay.